let's discuss the continued importance that speed and user experience play in search, and how Google's Core Web Vitals will help you monitor and manage how you perform in these areas. First off, what are Core Web Vitals? This is basically a Google ranking factor or set of Google ranking factors that revolve around the user experience while on your site. Google rarely reveals specific ranking factors, so Core Web Vitals is important because it confirms a lot of the best practices SEOs have been preaching for a while. This also adds on to previous algorithm updates like caffeine, which validate that things like speed are still an important ranking factor. As I just mentioned, it's really rare Google will come out and divulge actual ranking signals. This is a conversation between Google's Gary Illes that he had on Twitter about the subject of Core Web Vitals. Notice how he corrected Barry over at SEO Roundtable to specifically call out that it will be a ranking factor, not necessarily the ranking factor, but it will be important to rankings. So what do Core Web Vitals do exactly? Google has deemed Core Web Vitals as what they call real-world experience metrics. So this means anything on your website that can impact a user's experience once they land on your site. This takes things into consideration like page load time, the stability of your site, the security of your site, and things like lots of pop-ups that can impact a user's experience. So what does this impact? This will impact both rankings on mobile and desktop, but also your site's ability to rank in Google's top stories. Previously, Google required your site to use AMP or AMP in order to appear there. AMP is no longer a requirement, and instead, your site will have to meet a minimum score on Core Web Vitals. In addition to rankings and appearing in top stories, Google's own studies indicate that this can decrease site abandonment by up to 24%. That's a lot. I included a link to Google's blog discussing this topic, and I recommend you check it out for more details. So when do you have to start paying attention to Core Web Vitals? The announcement came out about Core Web Vitals in July of 2020, and Google stated that the update will take place sometime in 2021. So how do you measure your site and how it meets Core Web Vitals? You can currently see how your site is meeting Core Web Vitals requirements in Google Search Console, Lighthouse, and other tools. In Google Search Console, a free tool provided by Google, Google has already added a new report called Core Web Vitals to the sidebar. Once you click on this, Core Web Vitals are broken out by desktop and mobile, so you can see how many URLs you have in the following categories. These categories are labeled poor, needs improvement, or good. It's expected that sites will have a mix of poor quality, good quality, and mediocre URLs. The important thing is to ensure that you have a higher ratio of good URLs to those that are considered poorer quality. You can use tools like Google Lighthouse to help you determine where your pages are suffering in terms of speed. You can then read up on Google's specific recommendations in Lighthouse on how to best fix these concerns. To learn more about Google Lighthouse, visit the link provided. I recommend spending some time reading through the documentation to familiarize yourself with its capabilities and how to use it. In the end, Core Web Vitals will not only play a role in SEO, but will also have an impact on how users engage with your site and convert once they're there. Paying attention to metrics like Core Web Vitals is just good marketing practice.